I call this public meeting of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Welcome, everybody, to the May study session portion. And the first thing we're going to do is administer the oath of office to place 3, 4, and 5 duly elected trustees. Mr. Shealy.
I'm going to do these in order of your seat place, so I'll call you down. There is a statement you need to read. And I got the oath of office here for you to read. I'm not going to say it and have you repeat it. First one, Godfrey. Statement on top, and your oath comes next. And I want to say you just read it, sir.
Okay. I, Tim Daughtry, do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of vote at the election of which I was elected as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whatever the case may be, so help me God.
That's it. And the next page is your oath.
I, Tim Daughtry, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of School Board Trustee, Place 3 of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD of the state of Texas, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and this state, so help me God.
Sir, here is your certificate of election, and welcome back. We have the rookie.
I, William Bose, do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election at which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whatever the case may be, so help me God.
And then the oath is on the next page.
I, William Bose, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of School Board Trustee, Place 4 of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
Here's your certificate of election.
Kids, Bailey and Lucas, and my brother, Wilson Bose, who's a teacher at Fossil Ridge and Trail. So, thanks for letting me do this, John.
And Mr. Newcomb.
Well, Daughtry, he got you in trouble, so I'm going to have a chance to get out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll do it perfect.
I, Stephen G. Newcomb, do solemnly swear or affirm that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for the giving or withholding of a vote at the election in which I was elected, or as a reward to secure my appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God. I, Stephen G. Newcomb, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of School Board Trustee, Place 5, of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
Newcomb, your certificate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also would like to thank my wife, Joy. Tim said thanks to you.
Y'all didn't tell me y'all were gonna do that, thanks to my wife.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the recognition of Teacher Leader Institute, Aspiring Leader Institution, and Aspiring Administrator Institute participants, Dr. Barnes and Ms. Dunn.
It's my
And,
public.
I'm sorry, Dr. Parker.
I know, they just kind of threw me into this at the last moment, but I just want to say thank you. There are so many connecting parts and to the Teacher Institute as well as our Aspiring Leader and Aspiring Administrator Institute. I want to thank these two ladies, Lisa Dunn and Dana Barnes, for leading the work and organizing it. But you can look around at many, many people who were guest speakers and teaching and leading others in what it takes to make a district work. And so I just appreciate the fact that these ladies are leading that work and bringing us all in it together, and it so directly aligns to Aspire. So without further ado, we'd like to welcome our honorees tonight, starting with the 2018-19 Teacher Leader Institute. We start with I'm going to announce everyone because I don't know for sure who all is not here. Christy Baker, Angela Barrientos, Melissa Beck, Mallory Bounds, Evelyn Carrillo, Kimberly Clay, Lindsay Davis, Jennifer Hutton, Cree McGill, Brescia Moamba, Kelly Savage. Other participants include Patricia Miller, Nikki Patterson, Shannon Rimbazuski, Rebecca Salazar, Tamara Williams, and Holly Willis. The next group we will recognize is our Aspiring Leader Institute. This includes Juliana Anderson, Lee Banks-Steen, Mallory Bounds, I believe you saw a couple of these earlier, Kimberly Clay, Casey Conroy, Samantha Covington, Christina Dauphiné, Dina Davis, Carolyn Dowling, Lindsay Ellis, Alyssa Flores, Brantley Gallman, Janet Harrison, Leslie Harvey, Jennifer Hutton, Robert Kinnemer, Amy Kirkland, Danielle Malkowicz, Helene Anoma, Courtney Parker, James Parker, Debbie Perry, Tracy Pockris, Carlos Ropa, Julia Spoon, and Little Spoon, Stuart Spoon, and Jessica White. Those are our Aspiring Leader Institute members. Our Aspiring Administrator Institute, and we may be recognizing some that you've already seen because some of them are true achievers. I mean, they're going above and beyond. This is a great group.
There you go. Take the lead there, girl.
administrators, and they include Jody Fortune, Brenda Garcia, Morgan Leal, Kayla Livingston, Carrie Miller, Cindy Milan, Jana, wait a minute, Jana Muller, like color, we were practicing earlier. Michael Netherland, Kara Pablos, Natasha Provo, and Kelly Savage. Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to honor them tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Barnes and Stunn, for all the work, and thank you for all the efforts that were put in at all three levels. Okay, without board objection, we're going to move to report D. The State Board of Education approved instructional materials for handwriting and personal financial literacy. Stacy Summerall, she has an important place to be, which we are glad to accommodate you. Welcome.
Thank you very much for allowing me to jump to the top of the line this evening. I appreciate it. I am here tonight to just report on 2 additional resources that we would like to recommend for approval. These are part of the Proclamation 2019 ELAR Personal Financial Literacy Adoption. You know that's been an ongoing process. It seems like it's the proclamation that will never end. However, we have 2 pieces that these vendors did not submit to our RFP process. However, they are already approved by the State Board of Education, so they're on their list. So we just need to present that to you this evening. So we have in the area of personal financial literacy, all vendors considered were all on the SBOE list, and after a committee review, the recommendation is that we select materials published by BE Publishing Incorporated for a value approximately $30,000. This is an elective course, half credit, so we don't have significant numbers and quantities to purchase for, but we are aligning to the TEKS and feel this resource best meets our instructional needs. In addition, we are making a recommendation in the consideration of handwriting materials. We did have one vendor who did respond to our bid when we went through the RFP process, and that vendor, those resources were thoroughly evaluated by the committee, and the committee did not feel that those best met our needs. In addition, with consulting with our special ed department as well, who played a significant role in this recommendation too. So we are recommending that we purchase handwriting materials for to go with Learning Without Tears. The emphasis on handwriting is taking a significant role in the newly adopted TEKS, which will be implemented in ELAR beginning in August. So, and one of those is the increase of handwriting instruction and cursive going up to upper levels, and primarily, currently that is only addressed in our 3rd grade TEKS, with just a slight introduction in 2nd grade and a little bit of refinement in 4th. But this goes a little bit more in depth, and so felt like it was very important to make sure that we recommend the best product to meet all the needs of our students, and we feel that Learning Without Tears best meets that those needs, and also in regard to meeting multi-sensory activities and meeting the needs of students who are served by SPED services with our occupational therapist. So the cost, I will not sugarcoat this one. It's pretty pricey. It's very significant as far as the materials, and it will be an ongoing purchase for the next 4 years. We're going with a 4-year recommendation at this time, but we definitely feel that Learning Without Tears fully meets the needs of our students, and IMA will be funding this resource upon approval.
Is the estimate cost for a year or for 4 years? That'll be
That's
good.
exactly what I was gonna.
That estimate cost is per year, $120,000 per year. And we did allow in the recommendation just a little bit of fluctuation as far as growth and those kind of things, and if they update products, to give us a little flexibility. But yes, $120,000, that's K through 5, and then also serving our SPED students as well, and our SLAR.
Is it replacing something then that we have?
Yes, we currently use a resource Zahner Bloser, but it's more limited because of the TEKS, and so now that the TEKS are addressed in a variety of grade levels at elementary, we do need significant amount of
We'll be
resources.
saving that cost, though. We're not adding this to it. We're
No, sir,
replacing it.
this will be a new cost, and we will no longer be paying the price for the other.
And it's coming back next month?
Next month.
Okay.
Bring it back for action in next month.
Any other, sorry, we may cut you off. Were you, anything else?
No? Okay.
Anybody else have a question? All right, thank you.
Very much.
We're going to move back up now to operations report, and first is the quarterly demographics and housing analysis. Mr. Trent Smith with Templeton. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Newcomb and members of the board. Dr. Chadwell, thanks for allowing us to be here. Today, I'm going to give you a little bit shortened version of what you've already received previously, but we'll go through it. It's more of a kind of an economic and housing update, and then we'll have, I'll try to answer any questions you might have. Do I need to get that in? There we go. Okay. All right. So the economy continues to go very, very well in the DFW area. Our job growth has been, we've been basically creating about over 100,000 jobs for the last 5 years. And so that number continues to go, you know, you'll see a little bit of fluctuation here and there. But overall, we're just in a very, very good position here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Unemployment continues to drop, which is still amazing that it's below 4%. It's down to 3.6%, which at 5% you're considered full employment. So when you get it down into the threes, it actually starts getting harder to find employees, and so you have to do some recruiting and things that you haven't been used to doing in the past. When you look at the market as far as housing goes, we built a little over 34,000 homes this last year, up about 1,000 from the previous year. And we do consider that, you know, we expect that number to continue to rise up to about that 35,000 number as we move forward. When you look locally into the economy, you can see the Victory Shops at Basswood. That's a very large group. That's 26 acres there, about 19 different buildings, lots of different retail shops, including a Starbucks that's supposed to be opening anytime now. You're likely going to see quite a few students since it's across the street from that particular area. So lots of students could be, it's going to be very, very busy over there. The Bailey Boswell Shopping Center there is getting a Smoothie King, and that should be delivering by the end of 2019. And then on Saginaw Boulevard, you're getting the Shipley's Donuts. And I just thought it was funny that we put it's going to create about a dozen jobs. So I don't know if those come in a box or how those come, but about a dozen jobs. When you look at enrollment across the state over the last year, this is the heat map that basically shows where the enrollment change has been by district across the state. You can definitely see the triangle that is Dallas-Fort Worth down to San Antonio, Austin, over to Houston. You can see the development out in Midland, Odessa. As the energy market has stabilized and been pretty stable, then that area continues to grow. That's one of the areas, though, that can be yellow one year and dark green the next. But as far as the other areas go, we've been seeing substantial growth over the last several years. One of the interesting things that has happened is the birth rates have continued to drop over the last several years, which has taken its toll on our enrollment across the state. So if you look at the enrollment change graph, that is the bottom left graph, you can see that our enrollment statewide of students has gradually dropped over the last several years. We were cruising for about 10 years at about 80,000 students a year, and that number has just continued to drop. And a lot of that is at the very, as kindergarten, first grade, second, and as those classes move up, that enrollment change has just not been the same as it was. We're still growing, but just not at the same rate that we have been over years past. Looking specifically at regions 10 and 11, you can see that Eagle Mountain is in that next to the last growth area, that 1,000 to 5,000 students of growth. There's only 3 districts that actually created more than, or that got more than 5,000 new students over the last 5 years. That'd be Frisco and Northwest and Prosper.
I
And so-
appreciate you leaving Hazel off that map too. Unless they're not on there anymore.
They're on there. They're just.
Oh, they are?
They're on the. They're just not labeled. So,
Oh, okay. Perfect.
and so I live in Hazel, so I wouldn't have done that on purpose. But no, that's. You can see that Eagle Mountain is definitely growing. One of the fastest growing. In fact, about the 4th fastest growing district in Region 11, and about 7th fastest or 8th fastest district across both 10 and 11. So right now, as far as housing market goes, you closed about 1,336 homes in the last year, which puts you at number 7 on the list across the DFW market. We do expect you to move up next year to at least number 6, as you had 1,572 starts. So that's a pretty good indicator of what the closes will be over the next year. And so we do expect you to jump up, possibly even over Dallas ISD. We'll see how that kind of plays its course. So quarterly look, you can see it had 351 starts in the first quarter. Starts have been a little down across, but mainly because of the weather. The wet weather has kind of slowed some of that down. But you had 285 closes in the first quarter of 2019. We do expect you to hit that, kind of that 1,500 closes by the end of this calendar
So even
year.
though the numbers are down from 18 to 19 first quarter, that's not a trend?
I don't believe so. I think it really is weather related.
Okay.
And so it may slow things down a little bit. So you might, instead of hitting 1,600 closes, you might hit 1,500. But I think the market is still going very, very well. So I do think it's just a little bit of a weather slowdown. So this is your heat map that shows your annual closes. You've got Elkins and Comanche Springs are your 2 elementary zones that are having the most closes over the last year. They're the ones in red. They've had over 200 new home closes just in the last 12 months. And then you've got, the orange, which is about 100 to 200. And so you kind of, this gives an idea of where those closes are happening throughout the district. You can see Villages of Eagle Mountain is your number 1, 199 annual closings there. And then it looks like some little bit of formatting on the PDF, but that's okay. And then, out of this group, so you've got almost 20,000 futures out there. So this top 10 represents only about 10% of your futures. So right now, these are your most active subdivisions, but again, there's still plenty in the pipeline behind them, as again, this only represents about 10% of that future growth. So this is basically a table that kind of puts together all of those things, starts, closes, and your inventory, vacant developed lots. You can see Comanche Springs is, the yellow is your number 1, the green is your number 2, and the kind of reddish color is your number 3 as far as categories by elementary zone. Comanche Springs is definitely your most active, but it's got only about 1,900 futures there so far. You can definitely see that Eagle Mountain Elementary, though, has about 10,000 futures. So that's, as this all continues to grow and develop, it's going to start moving northward at some point, right? So this is an overview map that shows basically where all the activity is inside the district. The yellow areas are your active subdivisions. The green areas are your that are actively building in those subdivisions. And then anything that's outlined in red is where they're actively putting lots together. So they're going from a future into a vacant developed lot. So all of that, anything outlined in red shows there's bulldozers, they're making streets, they're putting in utilities, all those things that are happening to get those areas ready to deliver so they can start building homes. You do have about 3,360 lots right now that are under development. And so definitely, I think it's just a little bit of the weather. When you start delivering that many lots, that usually means that you're gonna deliver some, their goal is to basically be at about a 2-year supply of lots. So you divide that in half, you've got about what you could expect to get out of starts and closes in the next 24 months. So we're just gonna take a last look at, this is Twin Mills. Twin Mills is 1,137 total lots there. They've got 69 homes under construction with 75 vacant developed lots there. Groundwork is underway on the next 220 lots. They expect to deliver in September, and they expect to build about 120 to 150 homes a year there. And then when you look at Lake Point is getting started again. It kind of went dormant for a little bit, but they have groundwork on the next 137 lots that are expected to deliver in June, and then I know they've got some more right behind that. And so they're expecting to build about 100 homes a year there as well. And that's all we're going to cover today as far as the economy and housing. So are there any questions?
Thank you. Appreciate
Very
you
welcome.
coming out. Our next report is the Shack Annual Report, and Ms. Holly Smith is going to present that report to us. Molly?
Hello. Our Shack Committee President, John Haynes, sends his regrets for not being able to be here tonight, but I'm happy to fill in. Our Shack Committee has had a very productive year. They updated the district wellness policy. They have also been working on establishing a partnership with a local nonprofit called the Challenge Program. The goal is to establish a drug and alcohol prevention coalition. I have provided a document that lists the details of both accomplishments, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is construction update. Mr. Welch. Lots of updates. Nothing's going on, is there, Clete?
No, just a lot of rain. That's kind of what's,
Yeah. Slowing things down.
Okay, update on Marine Creek Middle School. There's your front door. It's got a little bit of debris still in there, but it's kind of starting to come together. In the gym areas, you see the coach's office has the carpet in, has the millwork, and the gym has the logo Mustangs. And you also see the bleachers. And on the top right, you see the Mustangs. So that's when you come into the side entrance. And so when you're a visitor, that's one of the first things you're going to see is the lighting and the Mustang. And then the lower right shows the band hall again, I believe. This is a new slide. So this is the area A. The top left one is that gentleman walking to the front door. So they've already put down the VCT in that location. And so they're also in the bottom right, they're leveling it. And then the one thing I really want to show you is once they put that down, they cover it up. That way it doesn't get torn up, and people will actually get stuff on it, and you can try to protect it, but the time we start putting furniture on there, you just have to be very careful. The media center, so you're showing some of the stairwell. You see the collaboration areas with the glass upstairs, downstairs, and then you see two gentlemen next to the wood pile. So they're leveling the concrete, getting ready to put on the wood slats for that little learning kind of perch there. They've now completed that. This is the opposite view, looking into what I'd call the more confined part of the media center. You see the two gentlemen right above them, that's where the TVs monitors will be located. Then above that is the kind of a larger collaboration think tank room that could be used for anything the campus would like to utilize it for. And then where those guys are located, if you see that glass wall across there, that gets pushed into the corner, so it's wide open, or it could be closed in. So they call that a nano wall, but that's both, there's two of them, and both of those have been installed. And on the area B, the casework and science labs and the tack boards have been installed. And you can see the flooring's covered up also on that one. Area C, that's the one that's kind of what you said, that would be the last one that'll be completed. So you see the tile is completed in the restrooms. You can see the ceiling grids are not in. They had to get their inspection before they put those ceiling tiles in, and the flooring hadn't been done yet. But it's not behind, it's just the last one, how they phase it in. We try to do landscaping, you know, obviously with the rain, it's a tough deal. And then you see the lift in the mud. But what that signifies is in the second floor, they have pulled all the lifts off the second floor. So they're putting in the aluminum work in there, and the glass is already in there now. So we're sealing up the building. In the courtyard, and then you see the foundation of the rock for the marquee that will say Marine Creek Middle School and have its electronic board across there. And so you can't see this from the road, but this is the football track area and the tennis location. So you can see the geo field, that is what we used on that. So we get a bag of that. And so we'll have to get that out to the maintenance facility. And you see the striping on the track is there, that's a 6-lane track. And you have the goalposts. It's a very beautiful, just waiting for all the landscaping to get in there, but it's, and on the tennis courts, the workers are working on the pavilion there, so it has a metal roof. It has four posts and a metal roof on that area with rock around it. And then you have the 6 courts with the windbreaks in them. And this is kind of the unsung person in the bottom, Miss Martinez on the left. So what you see is a bunch of boxes that have been wrapped and that have been labeled. Well, those are all the items from the basic book. I say all of them. That is the majority of them that she has entered POs in, and all our supplies that will go into that building. So those top 2 rows you see, I mean, it's all wrapped. That's almost 200 feet in length. Those are things that go into that building that have already been ordered, and they get put in there next month. Then you have also some boxes that she's going and checking to make sure that we were given exactly what we need. And an example where we weren't is the football pants. Football pants are supposed to be white. Well, when she pulls them out, the stitching is pink. So if you would have waited to the end of July, we'd have had pink pants. But we were able to get those back. So all that planning ahead kind of alleviates all those things. So thought that was pretty interesting. Anyway, that's the basic book. So when you hear that, that's kind of the bigger picture, how that comes together. Again, there's some more things, social studies, and again, some things are up on the rack, some are not. It's just, it'll be moving day in July pretty soon. Any questions on Marine Creek? If you'd like to visit, give me a call. I'll show you around, give you a tour if you'd like to see one, anytime. Copper Creek, so when you come into the amenity center, you see the little construction sign. So we've had we're blending in with the neighbors, and so we're trying to get the trucks where they don't go directly next to the amenity center and they go around. There's a way to get around there through Heritage Trace. So there's 2 roads and there's 2 entrances basically to that. So we've got these, I say we, POG has put up these signs to try to minimize that. So you can tell all these drivers not to do that, but you get deliveries and people that are not involved in it. So trying to be good neighbors in that and make sure their roads stay clean and such. And just a site work, pier drilling, utilities, geothermal, and a little bit of mud. And then the next, so one thing to help you with in spring, if you see that pier driller, it's got tracks on it, so it can go a lot over the damp, and if it's wet, it can make it over the pad. The only thing it really can is when you got to get the concrete truck in there, because it's going to have rubber tires. So if you ever we get in that bind, then they'll have to get a pump truck. But they can work. 2 of those pier drillers are on tracks. But that's what we've been facing. As you can see, the piers are in, but also, just got a lot of water, a lot of moisture. Any questions on copper? I showed you a lot of things like it's not going well, but it really is. It's just got to stop raining, and we'll be really way ahead. They're doing a great job.
They had some cushion in there anyway to get that open by 20.
And even I showed you, in my mind, they're already ahead of schedule, how they've sequenced it. I mean, they'd really have a big jump if the weather didn't get to us there. Creekview and Highland, we're getting ready close to the big move. So these pictures kind of showing you what's going on. There's one just to the outside, but you have the inside, you have the door frames and the walls being painted. You notice the floors have been covered up, so that tells you there's carpet or VCT already in place. The bottom right is the office areas, and that's one of the last areas that needs to be completed with the big desk. And is kind of finishing touches. You see the painters. Now all that part that's in the open, so it has the aluminum already in there and it has the glass in. So again, the finishing touches are occurring, and the moving day is on the 31st. So we have a group coming in. They being the staff, have to put their stuff in the boxes, and then we have movers coming in that will move them on that Friday. And so we'll move from their existing place into the new one. And then starting on June 3rd, we'll start tearing up the library, or their old offices into the library. That was just a picture showing the flooring that's underneath. See the carpet and the BCT. Any questions about those projects?
And the library will be completed.
Yes,
um,
yes. And it'll start on June 3rd, and so around the middle of August, right before.
Quick turnaround. That's a quick turnaround, that's great.
It is. I mean, I think they feel like they have everything ordered, you know, that we should be okay. I mean, the rain won't affect us because it's inside, but it is a tight schedule. Okay, Bryson has a little bit of a problem with the weather also because we need to drill piers to add to that gym. And so this project kind of jumps around from Bryson to Boswell. Boswell, the parking lot, you can drill on it a little bit easier because it's got asphalt around it. But they have started drilling piers at the end of last week. And then the bottom left shows you there, you can see where the old well house used to be, but we don't have to look at that thing. It was falling apart, so we'll get a new one in there in the near future. And
Mr. Welch, just real quick back to Bryson and also Creekview and Highland. I just wanted to comment. All three principals have commented on how well the construction staff have worked with them to make sure that it's not impeded instruction. They've worked around the STAR schedule. Even made the comment that sometimes you don't realize they're there. They've done a very good job having different construction entrances. And so it's never easy when you're doing something. It's messy, but they've done an outstanding job. And I just want to comment just on our operations department, but also our contractor that we're using for those jobs have done a very, very good job making sure that we haven't lost instructional time. So thank you for putting that together, Mr. Welch.
And this is kind of just a picture of the parking lot, and you've got the curb where all that concrete will be poured, and there's some piers that had to be drilled, but you can see again that it's got moisture on the asphalt, I believe, in the rain. And then we talked about Hellas with the turf fields, again waiting on the dry weather, but you can see that they have their on the baseball field where they can get down the hill with the rock, and then they hopefully won't bring all that mud if they bring some up onto the roads. And the one on the left shows going on to the auxiliary field, and then you have some supplies already there, but the bottom right is one I'd like to show you. So really it's kind of hard to, but if you see this little spot right in here, well, that's one of the workers down at the bottom. So it gives you an idea how deep that hole is. So they're right at 10 feet, 11 feet at that point. And so since then, the dirt that you see over there gets moved back in, and they slowly compact it every 8 inches, and they take density tests on it, and you just keep lifting it back up. So it's compacted, it has the correct density, then they start excavating the other half. One of the problems we're going to have to deal with this field is it has an old French drain in it, and the reason you would put a French drain in is you've got moisture. And so sure enough, we found that moisture down the sidelines. It goes around the old turf room, and so it's in the front and the back. So we'll have to come up with a way to make sure all that water gets drained away. But it would be like a running creek when you get out and you see it. It's still active, for about 25 years old. Anything about the projects in Boswell and Bryson? I think the security upgrades, the elementary shade structures, the tennis shade structures in Watson, those are just the same thing we had last month. There's really no progress on that as far as anything on the ground. The Lake Country site, we're about to close on it, getting ready to do that. And then we'll do the next thing on the other piece of property. One of the things I wanted to bring that Trent showed us from Templeton is you see all that growth in by Lake Point. And Lake Point is, having those capacity issues along with Eagle Mountain and in the future, possibly Elkins. So when you look at the next possible where that elementary 17 is located, we need to be able to focus on the areas in that area to alleviate those schools. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're trying to think about as far as the next site and where we want to go with that. The next two projects, the central office, we have a concept plan that we've developed with VOK. And we've been surveyed all the employees. VOK did that. So it was about a 32-page, very intense survey. But getting the idea of how people work and how they feel about how they work. And then VOK met with some of the leadership team on how their groups feel like they should interact with other departments, and then how within their department, how the workflow, how they would like to see that happen. So a lot of information is being gathered. And then with the Basel Athletics, we have a concept plan that we put together about 5 to 8 years ago. We revised it here and there, but we need to start getting the finer details on that one. So have it ready, and at some point be ready to go when that time is there. I think that's all my slides. Any questions on any of that?
Thank you, Cleve.
Okay.
The next is finance reports. Report B, Mr. Shealy. Looks like you have 3 in a row. Minutes enough time for you?
What's that?
Is 20 minutes enough time for you?
The first one. The first one we have is the district property values and funding lab to discuss that. This is actually a new requirement of the TEA for the first. We're supposed to do this within 120 days of the adoption of the budget. So I wanted to bring a little bit of information here. This is really not working very well. Let me try this. We got the April values in. The estimated net taxable value is right at $11 billion. That is over an 18% increase over the prior year. We had budgeted, estimated maybe 12 to 14%. So we are significantly above that. There are a lot of things being discussed in Austin right now. No matter how they look and discuss it, the bottom line is an 18% increase in net taxable value has a lot of benefits, and there is no downside to it. It's going to give us a tremendous amount of flexibility. So that was the good news. The other piece that I wanted to go over was open it up real quick, was the actual impact of lag money. And I want to go over that. If you just take the years, and I got years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and going out. If you look at year 2, which let's say it's the year coming up, and you have a 15% change in the TAV, that would increase your TAV. Let's say we started at 10, we'll go up to 11.5 billion. At our tax rate increase, or a tax rate of $1.17, that would generate $17.5 million in additional revenue. But I haven't thrown numbers out like that. And the reason is because the increase from the prior year, which was 16 million, goes away. So what you end up with is you end up with a net change due only to the TAV increase of 1.5. You'll see, let's see if we can get a.
That's just the reversion of prior years, a decrease in the money from the state, right? They keep
Right,
that.
and that's right.
They
When it
pay us
reverses,
less.
it's included in the formula. So it goes through, and you'll see that this 17.5 then reverses. We no longer get the benefit of it because it goes into the formula. So if we were to drop from a 15% to a 12% increase in TAVs, 12% still very healthy, but actually overall we'd end up with a $1.4 million loss in total revenue. Now this is assuming no change in the tax rate, the same number of students. When we get into the number of students and population, it changes. But what we do know is our money per student is going to drop. So then if we were to stay at 12% with the growth in the tax rate, we would end up with about a plus of about 1.9 million. If it went then up to 14%, we'd go up to about 5, and then if it went down to 10, we'd drop to a negative 4 million. And the reason I want to bring these out, this is what the impact of lag money is it makes it absolutely critical that you go out multiple years and that you estimate what your TAVs are going to do. Because depending on what your TAVs are going to do, if you have not planned for this drop here, that $4.3 million drop out there, if you haven't planned for that in the previous 4 years, you're going to have a significant disruption to your operation. That's one of the reasons that we have run out and done this on a 3- and 4-year basis. We do take these into account. I will tell you that there are a lot of people that don't, but they do so at their own peril. I want to talk about then if you throw the students in, and for this purpose I've averaged 550 students per year. These models get complicated with the more variables you put in, so I'm trying to put this pretty straightforward. If we have an enrollment increase of 550 kids, that translates into a WADA number of about 648. And what that is it's an attendance rate that reduces it, plus you add in all the weights for your special ed and your reading and speak, and it goes to about 648. Assuming the new basic allotment, it goes to 60/30, it would generate another 3.9 million each year that we had the increase.
Is that WADA number based on our statistics
Is
in
it
our
what?
district? Is the WADA number, the 500 to 648, based on our district? Or just
No.
statewide average?
No, this is just, these are examples only, because actually I think we're going to go up over 650 or 750 kids this year. That's what, I think I'm basing the budget on 750.
Yeah, but the percentage, the enrollment increase of 550 to get to the WADA of 648.
Right, that's based on our district.
Our district, okay.
That's our experience, historic experience, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
misunderstood.
Got it.
If we look at state funding versus the prior year, or using prior year numbers, what you end up with is you end up with the you end up with the 1550 plus the 3.9. So you end up with right at $5.5 million increase. On a per student basis, that's an increase of about, per student basis of about 8,422 per student. But the minute your TAVs slow, then you can see that that number drops. So it can drop back to, you get $3,800 per each additional student. Then the next year you'd get 9,000. The next year you'd get 14,000, but the year after that you'd lose 743. Those numbers fluctuate pretty wildly in a economic environment that we're in. Used to be those numbers tailed real close. You were talking between 3 and 5%. This didn't make a whole lot of difference. But when you've got 18% growth in numbers, it really becomes imperative, and I'm not sure 5 years is enough anymore to go out. Now there is a conversation about switching to current year numbers. And if that happens, good Lord. If that happens, then the net change in revenue, there will be no impact from current year, or no impact from the tax rate, because current year taxes are going to immediately drop. What that does is it levels off your increase. You'll get, in essence, the same amount of money each year for the increase in students. It levels it out. The problem with current year is, and I don't have it up here, is you'll see that we were gonna have a net change of 5.4 million. That would immediately drill down to 3.9 million. So that's an immediate loss of $1.5 million. Going in a fast growth district going from prior year to current, using prior year values to calculate state aid to current year values to calculate state aid is going to have a 1-year fiscal cliff. This is one of the reasons when the legislature says that we're going to, that they're going to go to current year values to save 1.9 billion. That would work unless they're gonna hold us harmless. If they're gonna hold us harmless, then they gotta give us the money and they're not gonna save 1.9 billion. That's why I'm very skeptical as to what the hold harmless is gonna look like. Because if the Senate is truly trying to balance this state funding plan based on the elimination of prior year, they can't hold us harmless and make it work. Those are the things that as I'm watching the legislature operate, I'm concerned about. All in all, as you go through the years, if you manage it properly and you're a fast growth district, being on prior year values gives you a lot more money a lot sooner. But you do have to be aware that you can go negative and you have to plan accordingly. And like I said, this is the discussion on lag money. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to go
How
over.
would they get that information that quick to know to adjust the current year? I mean, we're going off the TAD values and it's not certified till August, so they would be deciding how much money to send you in August? I mean,
Right, well, yeah, that's exactly right. You would be making that decision. To a large extent, we're already making that decision because we get the use of that money for 1 year. But it's a lot, you're, at least you know what your state aid is right now. If you go from prior year to current year, you don't know either your current year tax, well, you don't know your tax collections and you don't know your state aid. It's gonna fluctuate, and that does bring a key element into play. I guess I deal in a world where not much is certain, from the number of teachers we're gonna hire to the number of kids that are coming in to what the legislature's gonna do. I don't really need another variable factor, but if they do it, at least I want us held harmless. Anybody else? The next thing I wanted to do was have an analysis of the current year TAVs. Right now, we're looking at, like I said, the increase that we're looking at right now is this number right here. It's 18.53%. That was based on the April preliminary numbers. We got the May numbers in. They held. So there has been no significant difference from April to May. We do know what the fluctuation should be like. That number should drop again in June. It'll go up a little bit in July, and then it'll increase in August. So we know what the normal fluctuation on a go-forward basis is. But right now, we're looking at this point, about an 18.5% increase in TAVs. That will, depending on which house or which bill is adopted, there is tax compression, and it should lower the tax rate on the M&O side from $1.17 to about $1.04. So there is going to be a savings that will be brought forward. One of the things after a couple of years ago, when there were some changes or problems with TAD's evaluation,
is we now look at correlation of numbers. Right now, we're looking at the new construction number fell from 196 last year to 157. That is a really strange movement. The residential construction went from 276 up to 478. I can't really reconcile those two numbers. I thought there'd been more commercial construction going on than what that is showing. The other thing is there tends to be a correlation between this value here and between the new construction and the total increase. It generally runs to about 2.5 times. But the overall commercial value increase is almost 3.5. That's too big a number. So either this number's understated or that number's overstated. One of the two, they don't match up. That or we just have an anomaly. In any case, I have assumed the worst case scenario, that it has been understated. Going through and using normal trends would cost us about $750,000, $800,000. So at this point in time, based on what they've given us, that's the number that I anticipate we'll be looking at.
What would you like that commercial percentage to be of your tax roll?
What
Higher.
percentage?
I know you want it higher, but it looks like ours is split about 60 residential and 40% commercial and other things, but.
It's increased pretty substantially the last couple of years, both in total dollars and as a percentage of overall. It's just, I'm really surprised at the 157. I really expected that number to be in the 250 to 275 range. And because I expected with the development down along 35 and 820, that corridor there, and also going up the other side of 156 and across Bailey Boswell, I really expected a fairly significant increase in commercial. And it didn't. It's not showing in new construction. That could be a tad problem, but just in case I'm going to run it the other way. The numbers actually are getting more in line with what can help us, especially with expansion on debt service. I'll also tell you that the 18.5% increase probably made, I'm going to say, I have no question that we're going to be able to build high school number 4. Those values at 18.5% generate a tremendous amount of capacity. We're refining those numbers now to see what we can look at as far as potential acceleration of other projects is. And there's a couple, 2 or 3. Cleet and I have met one time to talk about what we could do and at what point we'll know what those numbers are going to be. It's too late to do anything this summer. But when we get the September numbers in and we have the levy, then maybe we can start some planning and even some bidding that fall. And like I said, just depending on how the economy looks and how the construction continues, I think it's very likely we can pull some of those projects forward.
Paige, you have a question?
I was just going to ask if you've brought that to Tad's attention, to what they're looking at it for you on the new construction commercial number.
What about it?
That it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense with what you're seeing.
Yeah. It's like I said, we're watching several things. The biggest ones, I mean, every time they come in and show the demographic report, you see all the areas that are building. They don't show you the corridor on the east side of 157 or the construction that's going on up here. I guess it's up there on the corner of Bailey Boswell and Old Decatur. I mean, there's just a lot of movement that's going on that I just think 157 is too low. Also,
Mr. Shealy?
Well, I'm sorry?
I think she's asking if you've interacted with Tad about the anomaly. Have you talked to them about that yet?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. We did call them and I asked specifically about that and they went back and said, yes, those are the numbers that they're showing. I asked them how you can get, how the existing property went up by that amount. Because I mean, if you only had 157, how'd you get 625 million in increased value? And they don't have an answer. They're checking their numbers, but a lot of it may come out in protest. I don't know, we're looking at it. Like I said, the last one is looking at these numbers on capacity. If we have another year like this year, or even close, that will pretty much ensure that we've got capacity to address the entire bond, the entire appropriation in the last bond election without an increase in the tax rate. Now, this 18.5%, the other thing that I'm looking at right now is accelerating the payoff on debt that's out there, especially variable rate bonds. We've got about 8% of our portfolio. We can call those bonds, we can pay them down. That also gives us additional capacity. We do have to reset those bonds this year. We may bring that again pretty quickly because of the way the yield curve looks, and also to facilitate calling those numbers in. So we're probably going to leave the tax rate at 37 cents, or at least recommend that we leave it at 37 cents. We will have excess collections. We'd like to call down existing bonds and pay them off quickly. And I think the third one is a review of the potential impact of legislative actions. And, you know, I put this PowerPoint together a week ago, so it's completely out of sync with the world now.
We're gonna let you sync it during supper because it is 6 o'clock, so.
Well, I got through 2 of the 3.
You got through 2 of them. We'll save the third one for after the 7 o'clock study session.
Very good.
Thank you, Doug. It is currently 6:02 p.m. on May 20th, 2019. This board will now recess for dinner and then reconvene in a closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Let me make sure I get them right. 551.071, purpose of private consultation with the board's attorney. 551.072, purpose of deliberating a purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. 551.074, purpose of deliberating the appointment, employment, reassignment duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or your complaint against such employee. 551.075, for the purpose of deliberation regarding the deployment of or specific occasion for implementation of security, personnel, or services. And tonight, we're going to review the district's emergency operating procedures. And 551.082, considering discipline of a public school child or complaint against personnel. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. The board is reconvening the public meeting on May 20th, 2019 at 7:01 p.m. and will now consider the subject set forth in the posted agenda. Welcome everybody to our May meeting. We're excited to have you here and recognize some of our students. We're going to start off with Parkview Elementary School. It's Mindy Miller.
Hi, my name is Mindy Miller, and I'm the principal of Parkview Elementary, and I would like to introduce some of our students this evening who are going to be leading us in our opening ceremonies. Liliana Webb, she is a 4th grader and the daughter of Jessica and Richard Webb. She enjoys gymnastics, swimming, and drawing, and she can do a backflip in the water. Also, Hadley Hawkins, who's a 2nd grader, the daughter of Melinda and Eddie Hawkins. She also enjoys gymnastics and drawing, and she can ride a bike without training wheels.
Ooh, very cool.
We have Kevin Marrera. He's a kindergartner, and he is the son of Aiden Petretta and Wilfredo Marrera, and he likes soccer, staying home, and playing video games. And he can run really fast. And we also have Ben Ketchum, who is a 5th grader, and he's the son of Trista and Brian Ketchum. He is involved in Boy Scouts of America and Rangers baseball team. He enjoys gaming, Avengers, baseball, and he mastered both reading and writing STAR tests this year. Next, we have Colby Nicholson. He's also a 5th grader, and his mom is Shandaroo. He is in Pace, Honor Choir, the Creek Church, and he enjoys basketball, football, his dog Lexa, and in school he is a straight have Kendall Holland, a kindergartner, and she's the daughter of Joseph and Stacy Holland. She enjoys gymnastics, playing at home, and riding her bike, and she can turn around while riding her bike.
Wow.
We have Harper Shelton. She's the daughter of Liz Shelton. She plays volleyball, and she is our student council secretary. She's in Girl Scouts. She loves being outdoors and doing art. We have Chaz Marone, who's a 3rd grader, and he's the son of Lindsay and Melton Marone. He plays YMCA baseball. He enjoys boxing, wrestling, cards, and he is really good at gymnastics. We also have Logan Stark, a 2nd grader. Leslie and Sean Stark are his parents. He's a member of Parkview PTA, and he loves volunteering, his dog Bailey, Minecraft, photography, and drawing. AJ Bowman is a 3rd grader, and he is the son of Chris and Dana Bowman. He loves games and gaming, and he also enjoys game design and math. And we have Bailey Strange, who is a 1st grader, and she's the daughter of Shayna and Jeremy Strange. She takes dance class. She loves to craft, sing, dance, and gymnastics. And she is very outgoing and says, "I am special because I am myself."
Y'all want to turn around and let the audience see you too? Turn around that way so that they can get pictures and they can see you. We've Please stand for the pledge.
Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Please remain standing for a moment of silence.
Thank you, student. Thank you, Parkview Elementary School, for opening tonight. Next, we have some special recognitions, and first I'm going to call on Miss Megan Overman.
I think I'm going to have to take some lessons on those bicycling tricks that we've got over at Parkview. So fantastic job. Thank you, students. As you can tell, we have a full house tonight, and we want to thank all of our students, our parents, and our staff who've come out tonight to help us celebrate all these accomplishments of our students and our staff. We did go ahead and take photos ahead of time, so they can come up and we can recognize them as they're named. So I would ask that our students and our families stay to the end just of the recognitions portion so that we can all be here to help recognize those accomplishments. First up, we have Chisholm Trail High School student Kaden Cassano. She's being recognized for receiving the Jostens National Renaissance Student of the Month Award for April 2019. This award is given to a student who has made an impact within their school or community through Jostens Renaissance. Kaden was selected based on her exceptional dedication and commitment to the values of Chisholm Trail High School and Jostens Renaissance. She's led the efforts to ensure that the climate and culture within the building are focused around the success of all students and staff. As her nomination from teacher and Renaissance coordinator Carla Hardy stated, Kaden has been in our Renaissance program for 2 years and currently serves as our president. I knew she would do an incredible job as our president, as she is the truest representation of a servant leader. Kaden continually exudes the heart of Renaissance in our school, in our classroom, and in life. When she graduates at the end of this year, I have no doubt that the 5 R's will be present in her life while on her college campus, influencing and impacting her peers and professors for years to come. Ms. Hardy goes on to say, "I'm so very grateful for and proud of all that Kaden has accomplished and become through her time in Ranger Renaissance." We're very proud of you, Kaden. Thank you for your contributions to Chisholm Trail High School. We also, to continue our Jostens Renaissance celebrations, we have a Staffalty of the Month. That's their word. They made that up, and it's kind of a cool word, Staffalty of the Month. If we could have Chelsea Shields come forward from Saginaw High School. Chelsea Shields has been named Staffalty of the Month for April as well. This is an award for a deserving staff or faculty member who's made an impact within their school or community through Jostens Renaissance. Chelsea was selected based on her exceptional dedication and commitment to the values of Saginaw High School and of Jostens Renaissance. She's led the efforts to ensure that the climate and culture within the school are focused around the success of all students and staff. And if I'm correct, this is the first year of Renaissance at Saginaw High School, right? Yes, it is. Okay, so getting it off the ground has been a big part of Chelsea's job here. As Courtney Parker stated in her nomination letter, Chelsea and her husband, Stephen, who is also a teacher at Saginaw High School, have worked tirelessly to start the Writer Renaissance organization at Saginaw High School. Chelsea is only in her second year and has one of the biggest, second year at Saginaw High School, and has one of the biggest hearts for our school that I know of. From organizing the faculty coffee and soda bar outside of all staff meetings, which I think should be a requirement for all staff meetings, the encouraging monthly posters also hung to brighten the hallways, greeting students and staff as they arrive at school with a smile and a treat, monthly awards that help us shine a light on students and staff doing amazing things, to just her general positive spirit with students and staff alike. Chelsea serves Saginaw High School as the principal secretary and is always juggling multiple things at once. But she is always willing to help whenever needed with a smile on her face. She is a go-to for all things at Saginaw, and even if it does not involve her, will lift a helping hand. In just the first year of the Writer Renaissance organization, I have already seen a great improvement in school culture, and I can't imagine the impact these special students being led by Mr. and Mrs. Shields will have as they continue to grow. Thank you for your contributions to Saginaw High School. We have many more recognitions to go, so at this time I'd like to ask Brent Barker to come up for some athletic announcements.
Dr. Chadwell, Mr. Newcomb, and the board. I first want to say on behalf of all of our gymnastics parents, not only in here, but throughout the district, as well as all of our gymnastics participants and great coaches, and of course we have two here tonight, we want to thank you for supporting and allowing us to participate in gymnastics. As you well know, maybe across the state, many of them don't. Many districts don't allow that or just don't want to support it. So it's for tonight. It's for nights like tonight, and for bringing in Coach Bradley and having the ability to actually know a coach like Coach Bradley. It's well worth the investment that we put into it. So Coach Bradley informed me and reminded me that he's been in the district 14 years at Saginaw High School, and I thought, well, I think it's only been 13 years. He goes, no. I interviewed in a hard cap, and he helped build the school. I said, well, I'm sure he did. But he built a heck of a program. So this is Coach Bradley's fourth state championship in 13 years. He's been in the state gymnastics meet 11 years. And so I'm going to turn it over to Coach Bradley.
All right, Mr. Newcomb, Dr. Chadwell, the board, I'd like to introduce you to a team that graduated several key players last year, a team that had 3 seniors this year that had to really rally the underclassmen, a team with that went undefeated this year, extending their win streak 2 years with 0 losses. A team that had to train all year long at peak performance. At the end of the year, when many of their friends and colleagues were shutting down, they had to be at top performance at the state meet. This is what it takes to win and be a champion in sports, in school, and in life. I'd like to introduce the state champion, back-to-back Saginaw men's gymnastics team. And hopefully next year, when the home football games, y'all come watch them get their state championship ring. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
He's got a great.
I got it right here in the corner.
Got a great
right here.
assistant.
Courtney Parker.
And if you're a Saginaw Rough Rider volleyball parent, would you please stand up one more time?
Volleyball?
Gymnastics, I don't know what I was saying. All right, and then we also have, when I got the job 5 years ago, Candace began 5 years ago, and I remember going to the gym, and Candace had about a handful of girls there, and she said, Coach, we're going to build this program, and she really did. And she's been to the state gymnastics meet for the last 3 years in a row, was the Coach of the Year last year, and has just done a tremendous job. So Candace Vincent, if you come up here, and I'll let you introduce this lady that's had a great career at college.
Hello. I too want to thank you for your support of our gymnastics programs. I was a club gymnast and I didn't get to do high school gymnastics because we didn't have that opportunity, and it was here in the Metroplex. So this is Julian Newell, and this year she was the 4-time uneven bars champion and also placed in the all-around. When you look at the our Texas High School Association website, you'll see her name for 4 straight years. So she's won it all 4 years. And this last weekend, she and I traveled with 3 other gymnasts from EMS ISD, 3 other seniors, to Florida for the national meet as Team Texas. There were 10 gymnasts, and we competed. I don't even know the number of gymnasts altogether. I believe there were 13 states there. We had 10 gymnasts from across Texas. It was Team Texas, and we won 5th place. And Julia made the top 15 from each event make event finals for the second day, and she made 3 event finals. After day 1, she was 5th on bars in the nation, and she ended up 10th on vault, 8th on bars, 9th on beam, and 11th in the all-around. So. Not only is I'm gonna be thoroughly miss her next year because she is a senior, and not only is she a great athlete, but she's also a great student first athlete because she's 18th in her class. So she's the whole package, and going to be thoroughly missed from myself and her teammates. But thank you.
If I could get the Neils, both you all, to go ahead and stand up too. Ms. Newell. Yeah, got a great And next is our HCTC principal, Dana Eldritch.
Good evening, President Newcomb, Dr. Chadwell, leadership, board members. I'm so thrilled to be here tonight to introduce our CTE national champions and state champions. These students are a small example of the hundreds who compete in career and technical education every year, and the amazing things that they do, and they do this because of your support. Many districts don't have the opportunity for their CTE students to travel, and ours do, and it is a driving force for them. And they make me feel so proud, but at times not so smart, because they are brilliant. When you hear the things they do, you will see what I'm talking about. Behind me, you see the Skills USA National competitors who will be moving on to Louisville, Kentucky this summer to not only just represent our district, but they will be the representatives of the state of Texas as the best in their category. So, these are all students at the Hctc, and I will announce their high schools as well. First, we have senior Ferner Moreno. Ferner will be competing as the CNC technician, and it's really hard. That they just tell me don't ask most of the time. From Chisholm Trail High School, John Pickrell, and John will be competing as the CNC Turning Specialist.
I'm from Saginaw.
He's from Saginaw. Brandon Bradley. There he is. Brandon is part of the robotics and automation team, and he and his partner Jaden Harvey will be competing again in Louisville, Kentucky this summer. The mechatronics team of Jace Andrus and Caleb Kuhn, both one from Chisholm Trail and one from Saginaw High School. Where are you? There you are. Okay. Will be competing as well. Mallory Grooms and Joseph Vasquez of Chisholm Trail High School are our urban search and rescue team. This young man is why my doctor says stop. Raul Arduna will be competing as the state champion in culinary arts. Mark Meza of Saginaw High School. Where's Mark? There he is. He is the state champion in internetworking. One additional piece of information, the Technology Students Association also had their competition, and our state champion in CAD, CAM, and CNC turning is also Ferner Moreno. I'd like to introduce their sponsors very quickly. These people put in tremendous amounts of hours. They travel with these students. They work with these students on the weekend. They are their instructors. And that is Demetrius Anthony, Matt Tucker, Chef Katie Natali, and Michael Ritchie.
We'd like to recognize those students, though.
Next, we have coming in as our FCCLA students. These students represent our Family and Consumer Science program. We are so thrilled we're sending two to one of the most wonderful places on earth, Anaheim, California, this summer. And they are Megan Espinosa of Boswell. Megan is a 10th grader, and she'll be competing in career investigations in the senior division. And then Madison Carter, who is also from Boswell. She is an 11th grader. These students are obviously going to be going on to more things next year. And Madison will be competing in the Teach and Train Occupational Division as a future educator. More sponsors that give so much of their time from Boswell High School, Lindsay Metz and Tamara Taylor, and from the Hctc, Casey Conroy. From DECA, our marketing division, this is Michaela Buapa. She had they also went to the most wonderful place on earth and competed in the international division of DECA in Orlando, Florida. Michaela has put in numerous hours competing at the district, the regional, the state, and the international level, and has put so much into this. This is her sponsor and teacher, Pauline Lockwood. Not only does Michaela do DECA, she was also recognized at the Academic Excellence Gala Award as being in the top 10 at Boswell High School. This young lady is going on to great things. This young man coming in is Isaiah Camerino. This young man is number 5 for the district to represent EMS ISD and the United States at the International NASA Space Design Competition. He worked his way through thousands of students in Houston for the United States competition and was chosen as one of the 12-man members of the United States team that will compete with countries from around the world in Florida this summer. And so he was director of structural engineering. I got it right. His sponsor is Rick Griffith, and again, we're so thrilled at the success the program has had, and that we know that Isaiah is going to go on to do amazing things and send us into space one day for sure. Last but never least, our FFA students, Tarrant County Junior Livestock participants. This year we are so thrilled. We had 2 grand champion animals this year, and for those of you not familiar with the show, it actually changed this year. It was much more competitive, many more breeds, many more weight classes you had to get through, and they did it. Not only have they just had the great animal, but these students have worked with those animals since the time they got them when they were very small, trained them, fed them, walked them, cleaned their pens, done all that fun stuff. And so we are so proud of of what they accomplished this year. To my left is Joshua Gomez from Creekview Middle School. He showed the grand champion dairy weather this year. And will you be showing weathers again next year?
Yes.
Okay, again, we'll be taking that next year. To my right is Kaylee Myers from Boswell, an 11th grader. And Kaylee had the reserve grand champion dairy weather as well. And so we kind of swept that category. So we are super proud. Their sponsors and their advisors are to my right, Brian Maynard from Boswell and Brad Merck from Chisholm Trail. We are so grateful for the support. But what I'd like to ask is if you're a parent of a student who was just recognized, would you stand and be recognized for all the time? It's been an outstanding year at CTE, to say the least. And so along with athletics, we also want to be sure and recognize the other amazing program we have, which is Fine Arts. And so I'm going to turn the microphone over to the Director of Fine Arts, Sean Bell.
Thank you, Dana. Good evening. Good evening. I'm honored to be here this evening as well for a couple of special fine arts presentations and honor some very talented students in our district. The first is Miss Madeline Smith, and here she comes. Madeline is the first visual arts student from Boswell High School in the history of the school to earn a Gold Seal Award at the State Visual Arts Scholastic Event, or VACE competition. And only 150 out of 35,000 pieces of artwork are awarded gold seals each year. Madeline Smith. This is actually a photograph of her winning piece. You want to turn that around so everyone can see it? There you go. And I would like to recognize Madeline's parents, if they're here tonight, Jerry and Terry Smith. Please stand if you're here. Congratulations. And her awesome visual arts teachers at Boswell High School. Please stand. Miss Amy Jenkins, Katie Beth Irwin, and Christina Brown. And our second recognition, I'm very excited to say, is a whole team of talented students. This is the Eagle Mountain Independent Winter Guard. Was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, Mr. Art Grossman, who is our color guard instructor at Saginaw High School, came to me with the idea of creating a district-wide color guard to compete regionally and nationally. This year, this group of students went undefeated, claimed the title of Independent A-Class Champion at the 2019 North Texas Color Guard Association Circuit Championships in February. This was the first championship title in this group's history. They also represented our district on the national stage, winning the WGI Dallas Regional. They placed second at the Southwestern Championships and finished the season as a semifinalist at the WGI World Championships held in Dayton, Ohio. Now, this is the really cool part. Because they are a consolidated team, they're competing in a division with an age range of 14 to 22-year-olds. And they often compete against private studios and university color guard teams. This is the first year our students not only won their class, but also received the overall high school for their division in the state of Texas. It's comprised of 21 students representing all three high schools and is directed by Mr. Arthur Grossman. And I'd like to recognize Art and Molly Owen, our color guard instructor at Chisholm Trail. Please stand, gang. And Mr. Ryan Lewis, Boswell High School. Now, if you'll indulge me, I'm going to introduce you all by school and just raise your hand and wave, okay? From Boswell High School, we're going alphabetically. Chelsea Allison. Haley Dill. Allison McKenzie. And Felicia Sander. Okay? From Chisholm Trail High School, Siam Al-Adam. Not here, so, okay. Ashley Bridge. Jessica Jensen. Tristan Porter. Lucas Ringo. Okay. Ashlyn Wallace. Kylie Wallace. And from Saginaw, Kaylee Bloodworth. Alyssa Cherry Holmes. Haley Espinosa. Adriana Gallardo. Jennifer Gerfer. Aaliyah Hernandez. Alexandra Huerta. Nyla Jackson. Aldany Ruiz. And Brittany Willman. Okay, there we go. And if you are a parent of one of these talented young people, would you please stand so we can recognize you? Thank you.
I believe that concludes our recognitions for the evening. We have some introductions now.
We're gonna let the audience disperse if they would like. I'm sorry, Dr. Parker.
That's fine.
So thank you, parents, for coming. Thank you, students. We're so proud of you. Thank you for making Eagle Mountain Saginaw such a great place. Thank you, staff. Lights dim. Sometimes somebody must have hit her. Somebody probably standing.
It's always exciting to announce and recognize students, isn't it? It just gives you energy. Well, this is fun for me because I get to announce new leaders who are taking on the leadership of campuses. So it's my privilege and honor tonight to announce several new leaders of campuses. As I announce them, I'd like for them to come up and then their families stand so you can see everyone. The first ones we would like to announce is the new principal for Elkins Elementary, Miss Randy Ann Callan, if you'll come on down. She gets tired of me saying this, but she's one of my former students from way back when. She had to remind me of that a few years ago. Randy Ann most recently served as assistant principal at High Country Elementary. She has 14 years of experience in education. She's worked as an interventionist specialist and elementary teacher prior coming to EMS ISD. She's received her bachelor's degree from the University of North Texas, and her Master of Educational Leadership from the University of Texas at Arlington. With her tonight is her beautiful family, her husband and 2 small children, and her soon-to-be former principal. Yes, thank you. Beth Sanders. So we're super happy to have her. Did we already get pictures? Okay.
Oh, right in front of everyone.
Okay. Yes. Thank y'all so much. Saw that cute baby over there. I was trying to figure out who it went with. Our next principal we're introducing is Bryson Elementary, Miss Jennifer Gillard. She's all alone, but we're happy to have her here. I think we've had her working all day. Yes, right. We have. This is Miss Jennifer Gillard. She comes to us from Breckenridge, the principal of North Elementary School. And prior to her time in Breckenridge, she has served 6 years as an assistant principal in Weatherford ISD. She has 27 years of experience. Now, this is the really cool thing. She did her student teaching at Bryson Elementary. Isn't that cool? She's taught 1st grade, 2nd grade, special education. She's been in Lake Worth as well as in Fort Worth. She has run the gamut of grades, and we're very proud of that. She's also been a campus literacy coach. She received her bachelor's degree from Texas Women's University and her Master of Educational Leadership from Lamar University, and we're excited that she'll be moving this summer to our area. Super. Thank you so much. Our next principal comes to us is the new principal, of Northbrook Elementary. Yes. Miss Maggie Highland, I think y'all recognize her. Her family's with her tonight to support her, and we're so happy for Miss Highland. She has been the assistant principal of Northbrook Elementary. She has 28 years of experience in education, and even though I've interviewed her multiple times to really write your little bio here, it's amazing. She worked as a bilingual reading specialist, special education teacher in Grand Prairie ISD. She later served as the Director of Language Acquisition, Programs, and Academic Coordinator in Weatherford ISD. We were blessed for her to come here. She received her bachelor's degree at Texas Women's University and her Master of Bilingual Education at Texas Wesleyan University. She has been at Northbrook Elementary as their assistant principal, and she is ready to take on the leadership as their new principal. Welcome on board, and thank you so much. Our next principal to be announced, I think you'll recognize her name, is Stacy DeHoyas. She will be coming on board as the principal of the Hafley Development Center. And we've kept her quite busy just just in the last few weeks with her, her family. They're supporting her. Aren't they beautiful? Stacy recently served as assistant principal at the Halfley Development Center. She has 18 years of experience in early childhood education. She holds a Master of Education in Curriculum and Instruction from Grand Canyon University. She is involved in several professional organizations, including the Texas Association for Education of Young Children, the National Association for the Education of Young Children, the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association. She also began this year as a Principal Fellow and a Family Partnership Fellow for Raise Your Hand Texas. We are happy to announce Stacy DeHoyas as the new principal of the Halfley Development Center. Thank you so much. Last but not least, I'm proud to announce our new coordinator of the Child Care Center. She works with our youngest littles, Miss Shannon Bradley. If you'll come up, is your family here tonight? We'd love for y'all to stand. Thank you so much. This is Shannon Bradley. She comes to EMS ISD from Children's Courtyard in Haslett, where she has served as the director for the past 13 years. She previously served as a classroom teacher at Children's Courtyard in Arlington. She was then assistant director of that facility. She holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and is state licensed as a child care director. She brings, I know she's young, but she brings 21 years of experience in the child care industry to this new role. We're delighted to have Shannon with us, and thank you, family, for being there to support and sponsor her. We appreciate it. With growth brings opportunity, so I'll probably see you next month announcing a few more. Thank you.
Welcome to all our principals. We look forward to what you're going to do for our school district and our children, and y'all can sure leave, and you would like, as we head on to the other part of the meeting, or you could stay. Just give you a second. Young kids to get home. Now we got plenty of chairs. All right, we head down to the action item, and the first is to elect board officers. Dr. Chadwell?
Yes, as the board knows, in accordance with board policy, after each school trustee election, the board shall elect a president, vice president, and secretary from duly elected trustees. And so I would call for the board to have a recommendation for those offices.
I make a motion to have Stephen G. Newcomb as the president, Ms. Paige Ring as the vice president, and Ms. Donna Webb as the secretary.
Motion by Tim, second by Liz. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Are there any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, board, for the support that you've shown all three of us to let us continue to serve you in the district, so we appreciate that. Next is to act on computer replacements, teacher laptop, and student device lease. Mr. Shealy and Mr. Murdoch.
I move we authorize the lease of teacher laptop computers and student devices from Dell for a 36-month term. Total number of computers not to exceed 2,200.
Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Paige. Questions, discussion, seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next is consider approving the renewal agreement with Gold Star Transit. Mr. Dwayne Jones.
I move we approve the amendment number 5 to the renewal and amending agreement with Gold Star Transit, Inc. for pupil transportation services as presented.
Second.
Okay, and just as a reminder, that's the one that was at your place, is the amendment number 5 to renew and amend agreement. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you for being here. Next, to act on purchase and installation of miscellaneous furniture items for Creekview and Highland Middle School.
I move we award to Indico Sales Inc. for the purchase and installation of miscellaneous furniture items for Creekview and Highland Middle School in the amount of $270,785.
Motion by Donna, second by Marilyn. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0.
Can I make one comment?
Yes, sure.
I'd like to say that I think from a purchasing standpoint, I think the district-wide, the more we can use purchasing cooperatives that have already done a lot of the legwork for us, saves us thousands of dollars internally from bidding those things out when they've already been done for us. And I think the more that we use these type services, I think we get a better product for the district.
Yes, sir. We'll do the best we can.
You're doing a great job up there, by the way.
Thank you.
Next is to act on the purchase and installation of horizontal blinds.
I move we award to San Pedro Blinds for the purchase and installation of horizontal blinds for Marine Creek Middle School in the amount of $51,376.50. Because my mentee would not do it.
Just thumbing to it. Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Tim. Just a reminder, they were not low bidders, so I want to make sure that we did have reasons to take those, and I'm sure we did.
Yes, and some of this information's in the packet, but I'd like Mr. Jones to go over that. There was a very different approach that both of those bidders came to this project, and so our desire to go with San Pedro was based upon that, and so.
They actually showed up to measure?
Yes, sir. They were on site to measure, I believe, on several different occasions.
Yes, sir.
The other bidder did bid for the job, but did it sight unseen, and so there were some concerns about their ability to actually know the scope of the job and their ability to do that correctly without actually evaluating the project. Also, San Pedro is a local company with a track record in this community for a very long time, and so we felt like those two factors were enough to want to get this right the first time. And so, Mr. Jones, you may want to add to that.
I think you captured it fairly well. It wasn't required for them to show up on site, but we did make it available to them, partly on purpose. I mean, one, to get the accuracy, but then also so that to see who was actually interested in coming out and taking measurements and doing that. And that gentleman actually came out enough times that the Pogue contractor out there said that he was actually kind of getting tired of him coming out there. He made several trips just to make sure that he did everything as close to as possible, as perfect as possible. Whereas the other one, like I said, they just, as Dr. Chadwell said, they just basically just sent a bid in based on the specs that we just sent out.
Okay. Any other questions, concern? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is to consider approving the 1920 staffing proposal 1. Dr. Dawkins. There were only a couple of changes, as I recall,
yes,
from your initial report.
Yes, sir.
That's in the final
Right. It's in the final version. Yes, sir. After consideration, the practicum specialist, there was some follow-up discussion in terms of the level of applicant or quality of applicant that we could get to step out of basically they'd be stepping out of a classroom to a lateral move, just adding a few days. And so in working with Dana Eldridge and Dr. Parker, really looking at the quality of applicant that we could draw in at an admin program, like a pay grade 3. And what we determined is we could start year 1 with a 197-day calendar, just for building the program in year 1, and then in year 2, because they would need to be available to supervise the students in the practicum in the summer of year 2, that we would convert that to a 220-day contract. So phase it in, if you will. And I put that footnote at the bottom of that.
So the difference was about 9,000 for the quality of candidate on that. The second adjustment was initially under, it was a paraprofessional position, the special education assistive technology technician. We had gone back and forth on if that was a professional role or a paraprofessional role, and Dr. Hughes is able to make that work with a paraprofessional role, and so the salary would be set at a much more affordable salary for that position. They would really be assisting our assistive technology technician that we have that's a professional position at this time.
All right, thank you.
So those are the two changes.
Any other questions?
Questions on that?
I move we approve the 2019-20 staffing proposal version 1 as updated in the packet.
Second.
Motion by Page, second by Donna. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next is to act on bids and proposals. Mr. Shealy, the first one is extension of proposal for professional development and leadership development training.
I move we extend the agreement with, I know I'm gonna mess this up, but we'll get it. Lead Forward Developing Minds, Houghton Mifflin, Harcourt, Solution Tree, Dual Language Training Institute, and Results Coaching Global for the professional development and leadership development training until June 30th, 2020. The estimate annual expenditure is $150,000.
Motion by Donna, second by Page. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next is the extension of proposal for fresh and organic produce.
I move we extend the agreement with Farmers Market, Brothers Produce, Paradise Produce, and Walnut Creek Farms for fresh and organic produce until July 31st, 2020. The estimated annual expense is $230,000.
Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Tim. Questions? Same people you're using now, look like? Still, okay. Sorry,
Mr. Newcomb,
just want to ask that.
just
Sure.
say one quick thing. I just want to acknowledge Mr. Wiley and his team because this ability to work particularly with organic produce has expanded the quality of our fruits and vegetables, and it's really great to see that. When I go to campuses, I always like to drop by the lunchroom and really see what the kids are having, and y'all done a really good job in this area. And just to remind us, we've been able to do this because of our work also at the high school areas with our bistros and our a la carte sales, and so it's all part of one system. And this year, of course, we're also not having a recommendation for any increase in the lunch prices. And so we're trying to keep all that in mind, and this is a critical part of it, is really the sources, is we want to make sure we have a good product for our kids, and that they choose us, you know, that they want to choose what we provide them. They use also berries and things sometimes kids can't get very easily, fresh fruits. And any other things, Mr. Wiley, I covered? Okay. But thank you for your leadership in that area.
Definitely.
All right, we have a motion by Donna, second by Tim. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next, we go to an extension of proposal for franchise pizza.
I'll keep going on my roll. I move we extend the agreement with Domino's Pizza, Mark of Excellence Pizza Company for franchise pizza until July 31st, 2020. The estimated annual expense is $60,750.
Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Madeline. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next is the serving line equipment for Creekview and Highland Middle Schools.
Do it.
I make a motion to award the proposal of serving line equipment for Creekview Highland Middle Schools to Shepherd Food Equipment for a total of $749,251.95.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Donna. We got that exact bid, $74,951.95.
Did I get it right?
You got it right.
Not a penny over, Jim.
Any questions? See none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. That concludes our action items. We go back to uncompleted reports from the 5 o'clock session, and we had one more from Mr. Shealy, a review of the potential impact of legislative actions, page 85 in your board book.
Mr. Shealy, remember, I just saved you a lot of talking. So make this.
We don't know. We have been listening to, my phone's been dinging this evening as the conference committee has been meeting and making adjustments to things that I wasn't sure they were going to make adjustments to. So I'm going to try to go through this as I set it up, and then I'll add what I've learned in the last 48 or 72 hours. The biggest issues that they're facing right now in the conference committee are property tax relief, compression, teacher and staff compensation, pay for performance, funding based on performance. Those are all issues that are up in the air. The differences have to do with, I think there are things that people have promised and want to make sure they give. Those are non-negotiables. There are things they put in, but they're probably willing to back off on. Those things are things they're willing to give on. Then there are things that they won't accept from the other chamber, and those may be poison pills, and those are the ones that bother me the most. I haven't seen any of them, but they do tend to pop up. We did hear a little while ago that they're talking about raising the basic allotment from 60/30 to 61/40 or 61 something. That change in and of itself provides an additional $3.1 million. So they don't need to sound like they're big changes for them to have a significant impact. We know the cost of education index, which is supposed to be the allowance we get because we live in a high cost of living area, is going away. That costs us right at $8 million. But they're increasing the basic allotment substantially more than that. We're watching the numbers go in and out. The one that's most heavily in play appears to be the switch, and we talked about it, from using prior year values to calculate state aid to current year values. That will have an initial year impact that's significant. We'll also never really catch up, but at least we can monitor it. The question is hold harmless. And I think I mentioned earlier that it's hard to, tell somebody you're going to give them money and then expect to keep the money. So I don't know exactly. We're hearing some things, but the House seems to be willing to hold the Senate to making sure that we're being held harmless. There are also some mandated spending areas, in particular teacher salaries, which it looks like they've come down from the 5,000 to a lower number. It's just all up there. Like I said, the increase in the basic allotment from 5140 to 6030, that's now over 6100. Senate proposal was 5880, they're now over 6100. Everything is an ebb and flow. They do something and it gives us 20 million, they do something else and it takes away 17. They make us spend money here and it costs us 6, and now we're behind 3. So part of my problem is whenever they do the runs, and I'm sorry if I sound befuddled, but when they do the runs, they base it, they say Eagle Mountain Saginaw, this is what's going to impact you. But the number of students is wrong, the taxable assessed value is wrong. I mean, I have to go in and undo what they did, or what they did, and then try to redo it.
One last thing, Jim, it's also an interpretation.
Yeah.
And so as we ran into, we had Chairman Huberty really implore that Moak and Casey would not guess until they saw the final language. The problem is it's so highly complicated. At some point you have to look at it because you're not exactly sure if you're positive or negative towards it without that information. So we really have to have a very wide berth there in terms of how much we depend upon the numbers, because we know. So what we do is we look at several. Jim works them, talk to Omar Garcia, we look at Moak and Case, we look at Equity Center, and if we can get something from the Legislative Budget Board at times, that's a little bit more difficult, then we compare them all and come up with a more conservative estimate. So just want you to know when we bring y'all a number, we're taking the worst of all those possibilities forward, so we don't guess wrong.
And as big as we are, you know, we try to budget to a really fine level. I mean, we have a $180 million budget. So $1 million is like 0.6% of our budget. But yet $1 million is still a lot of money to me. So we try to nail these things as close as possible. You'll notice the last two lines. The increase, the Senate's proposal, they increased the basic allotment from 5140 to 5880. That produces $18.5 million. But eliminating the cost of education index reduces that 18.5 down to 3.1 million. Well, now it's up to 61 something. And so we're watching that because in my mind, I have to come up with what I believe is a range. And that range is what allows us to make decisions on a go-forward basis with some timeliness. In this case, I run worst-case scenarios. What happens if this doesn't happen? What happens if this? So that when we come forward with a recommendation on proposal for staffing or a recommendation on program issues, they will have been run through that model to make sure that on a worst-case scenario, we have the funds to do those things. Now, there are some things at play we may or may not be able to do later, but by the time it's brought in, it's been vetted. And that's really, we have to watch very closely. Like I said, we've been watching it happen as they're meeting tonight, and it's been interesting. The one thing that's critical, second bullet, is the hold harmless. The word coming now is that the hold harmless applies to state funding, doesn't apply to prior or to your current year collections, that could be governed by some type of a revenue cap. So we're looking at that. Even if it is adjusted or held by some type of a revenue cap, I already got rid of assuming that money was coming in because I just simply had to run worst case scenario. So the Senate's still talking about 2.5%. The House wants an increase in homestead exemptions. They want it focused on homeowners. Senate wants it broad-based. I think you may see something in the neighborhood of 4, 4.5, or 5%, maybe a revenue cap. This is one that the governor and the lieutenant governor have really focused in on. We talked about current year versus prior year. That shift is supposed to save the state $1.9 billion. I don't know how they can do that and keep us held harmless. That's why I'm watching the hold harmless. These are just some numbers, and then they're in your book, but I did adjust it for the 19% at 18.5, it's rounded collection. That is a $18.5 million increase. Second year turnaround is 12. So the net of those things is 6.5 million. That's in addition to growth, in addition to any other factors. That's just those, the numbers. If we go to current year, then you'll notice that the red number, we lose 8.5 million. That is the number that the hold harmless has got to protect us from.
That would be because our property tax values are 18%.
That's because
they cap it at 3.
We get the 18%. Instead of being able to use that for a year, the state would take it immediately. Now we still have a reversal from last year, so it's a compounding issue. We not only do not get the benefit of the raise, we lose last year's. It's now gone into state formula.
How would the cap work though? If it's capped at 3.5 in 2020?
If the revenue is capped, that would force us to reduce our tax rate. That state would then make that up in state funding. Since we're on current year revenue, it doesn't impact what our collections, because our collections never work outside of the state formula. And I'm, like I said, I get befuddled at times because this thing has really gotten legs of its own. But suffice it to say that if they do it using prior year values, we get the benefit of that TAV increase for 1 year. If they move to calculating state aid based on current year values, that goes away. And that first year reversal is what costs that 8.5 million. That is the number we have to be held harmless on. And I think they understand that, but I haven't seen the mechanism. So at this point in time, I'm looking at the increase, I'm looking at the growth in students, I'm looking at the other aspects, and I'm letting that number go away. And if it is held harmless, then we're going to have more money than I project, which then we can determine later. If it's a 2.5% revenue cap, you asked me that question, I forgot I actually answered it. It would take that 8.5 million up to 11 million. If the cap's 4%, it ends up right at about 9. 4.5% is the break-even area. Like I said, there are some mandated spending areas. The $5,000 raise for all teachers and librarians, that would cost us about $7 million. The House has 25% of the revenue generated from any increase in the basic allotment. If you calculate just the basic allotment, that's 20 million. 1/4 of that would be 5.1 million. So there's about $2 million difference between the state, or the Senate and the House on that. It looks like it's going to be a fixed figure, substantially less than 5,000. They probably are not going to address any other employee other than teachers and librarians. As we go through the budget process, the things I'm concentrating on right now are the growth in students, the growth in TAV, current year values to compute state aid and hold harmless, and mandatory salary increases. In my original model, way back in April, we did have a 2% increase, which is still in the model at this point in time.
Just a note on that, Jim, is that is in the model, but we're going to wait until June, especially if there's not a session. If we get through House Bill 3, it gets approved, we know what our numbers are, we come to you in June with a recommendation for salary and COLAs at 2, or it depends on which version comes out. If they do actually do the $5,000 teacher pay raise, it's possible that the capacity to do any other raises for any other category of employees may be severely affected to the point of either nothing or very little. And so at this point, I think that's a sticking point between the House and the Senate, to my understanding. So I think it's going to be something in the middle. And so based upon what they come out with and what the mandatory increases are, is where we'll come back to you with the compensation recommendation.
So, and what is the dollar figure delta between what you have worked in there and the
The
mandatory
dollar
5,000?
figure.
On one we're doing percentage and one we're doing
Yeah,
dollars,
2%.
so.
Yeah, 2%.
2% of actual.
We'll continue to monitor. We'll try to give you Friday updates as we go through.
I'm asking specifically what's the difference, so if we know what the total impact, dollar impact would be for the 5,000.
5,007 million.
How many dollars do you have
The
put in there on the 2%?
$5,000 increase would be $7 million impact.
And the 2%.
2% would be?
Would be 2.6, 2.7 million.
On all employees, but just
On
teachers,
all
do we know?
employees.
It's about 1.3 million per percent for all employees.
Yeah. And understand that the $5,000 raise for teachers is supposed to be funded outside the formula with a separate program that is
And
only
you've
for
never
2 years.
seen
Well, and also, there's never been a time in which this is done that it's funded the next session,
Yeah.
or maybe the session thereafter. So that means that you tie people contractually and their lifestyle and everything, not knowing if you actually have that amount coming into the next legislative session. And if you ever had an economic downturn, let's think high school allotment, instructional materials allotment, technology allotment, what do they all have in common? They're either going away, have gone away, or been severely affected. So that's the fear. And so we say if they're going to do it, put it into the basic allotment, and that way there's a level of guarantee that it'll be there in the next session.
And I tried to keep that short and sweet. We will keep you updated. It's been a heck of a day. They're meeting, as I understand, still tonight. So.
We will start sending you updates probably starting tomorrow based upon what happens tonight. And so we'll just send you a daily email letting you know what are the results in Austin. Also, we'll give you a copy, Jim. They don't have all those slides, and so we need to send those out tonight as well.
Yes, they
a
do.
lot of this is moving very quickly, as y'all can tell, so we will get that to you this evening.
Yeah, I've got those ready to go. Actually, I just have not had some of these were being developed late last week. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Human Resources Report, 2019-2020 Staffing Proposal 2. Dr. Dawkins?
Yes, staffing proposal 2. President Newcomb, Dr. Chadwell, members of the board. So bringing you phase 2. So in looking at the positions that we're bringing in this round, we've got several professional positions in our special programs department. We are requesting the addition of high school counselors, one at each high school campus. We have several paraprofessional positions. For instance, like our computer repair technicians, those are added in our strategic plan with technology. We are requesting a high school PEMS clerk. That's a new position, one for each of those at the high school. And then we've got some auxiliary positions for just growth in that area and the need in the district. And then Dr. Baker had spoken about the additional security specialists. So we've got one at high school and one at Hctc. We have 2 additional positions that are for security specialists, so it would actually that we have available, so it would be 1 per high school. We just need 1 more to make equity on that. And we have a human resources coordinator. We have been using a substitute for quite a while in that position, so I'm requesting that for our department, and then a reclassification of one of our coordinators.
These aren't coming out as 2 because they're any less important, they're just a timing difference?
This had to do with timing. If you divide the 2 reports up, a lot of it had to do with how hard it would be to get those positions.
Right.
So for example, an AP position is one that a lot of times comes from the classroom.
Right.
In the area of counselor, we'd be more likely to hire somebody that's a current counselor. And so we tried to divide it up that way. We tried to get the number manageable between the 2 reports based upon the report we just heard about what would be available. But in terms of priority, it's not that the first report is, everything there is that much more important than everything right here.
Right.
I had a couple questions. So the high school counselors, are we adding responsibilities? Is it enrollment based, or what's
It is enrollment based.
Enrollment based, right.
We're at this critical point. A few of these positions on here are ones that we've not been in a financial position to be able to expand, and so we've just kind of made do as we've grown. And as we've looked at the high school counselor role, particularly in the area of mental health, especially in the last couple of years, we feel like that our ratios are too high. And right now we're operating at 650 to 1.
Right.
Maniala, is it
Caseload, that's a lot of students.
600 to 1?
And so this will bring them closer to 150.
And the recommendation at the state level is like 375 or 350? 350, yes. And so we're not hitting quite that number, but we feel like it's helping us in that area. And so some of the other areas like social worker, that would be another one of those positions that, although that's coming out of comp ed, it's the same situation. We've identified these years back, and every year we say it doesn't quite make the cut. We've waited and just kind of tightened our belt, and now this is a point in time where we're at that number. It's hard to know. I mean, what is it? Is it 2,000? Is it 2,050? Is it?
Right.
I mean, what was that magic
number?
number, that magic student? But we feel like we're definitely past it in those campus-based positions. We also identified PEMS clerk. That one, for example, was identified because we felt like some of our data at our high schools was being affected by the other responsibilities of the individuals doing that, and that we don't have a singular PEMS clerk that's responsible for all that. And it's kind of a garbage in, garbage out situation. If you're not very, very high on the integrity, then you can make some errors. And this is an area that in the past has been not as significant, but now in the accountability system, you have the College and Career Military Readiness, CCMR. If you're wrong on one of those in terms of like coding for career and technology or what college they go into, it can actually bring your entire rating down. And we've estimated that our rating last year was probably affected to some degree by, not that they were just completely incorrectly coded, but that we could have done another measure or level to make sure that we're accurate. We've actually gone back in this year's numbers to do that for this year. So each one of these has a story like that.
And we've also, we've looked at our neighboring districts and districts that are comparable sizes, and we run very lean staffs. We do.
That's a very good point, because I'm going to call us ours.
Say that like that's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
Ours is more, if you had to pick a district, what we're modeled after, it would be more like the Frisco model in terms of the number of assistant principals based on student population, because our high schools are very close to ours. And so now what will soon be 5 assistant principals and 1 high school principal is similar to what Frisco does, similar with the counselor as well. This would bring us up to 5 counselors. And that's similar to what they do. We looked at a group of about, 8 or 9 different school districts, and some of those we had to be very careful because we're not going to compare a 9 through 12 school to a 10 through 12. Fast growth is a little bit different because if you can be a larger school, but if your mobility rate is 6%, well, you don't have kids coming in and out every day. You're not writing a new schedule for a kid that just moved in from out of the country or from another high school. So we tried to find school districts that were similar to us in mobility and in terms of numbers of students and what we project to occur into the future with our 4th high school. So,
and the mobility for PEMS as well.
Yes.
Just that tracking of students in and out.
My other question was just a clarification on what you said. So the HR coordinator position, you said you're doing that with substitute day? You mean like you're contracting it today, and so you're wanting to turn it into a position?
We have had, in the past, we have had a person that's come in for several years that's done a lot of work in the department in that role, actually more in the level of a director role. But in looking at our department, I think the needs could be met with a coordinator instead of a director. Coordinator level
They come
position.
in as a contractor today, they're not an employee. I'm trying to understand.
As a substitute, we've used substitute.
It's actually not contracted to receive a contract. They act as a substitute, and this is an individual. She's worked here as long as I've been here, and would come in when somebody was out, or if we had an open position, or in this case, it's just the workflow.
So you just float a vacant position and use her in some sort of I'm trying to figure out how you had a substitute for a non-job authority.
Right.
So
So
it's just, you're using it for
extra
some sort of a
duty,
vacant
like an
thing.
extra duty substitute.
So that's that position, which is it's again growth, numbers of applicants and employees.
All right.
Any more questions?
Thank
So
you.
we are just requesting permission to post, and then again, Mr. Shealy's made that very clear that it's June 17th before we can have another discussion, that we'll know more about our budget at that time.
One other quick thing, Mr. President, if you don't mind, is the operational positions are another tighten your belt kind of thing. I believe it was 2 years ago, we brought a report showing the number of work orders and the numbers of responsibilities per person. This is, you'll see the focus here is on plumbing. There's a big focus there, and also on custodial supervision. We're now large enough that the person that's directly responsible for custodial supervision is managing most things within the office, and we need somebody to be on site. So that's an on-site person. That's a person that's going out, spot checking facilities. We're very proud of our facilities, but we know that doesn't come easy. You know, it has to be worked towards. So that's what those positions are focusing on. Preventive maintenance, that's the roofer. A lot of that's preventive maintenance. Anything else, Welch?
Well, we've had, those two, the roofer and the pest management program was operated part of that way for 25 years. We're a small district now. It's time to buy those out. Help us handle the workload.
Well, without objection, go ahead and post.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to our routine monthly reports. You see them there, tax collection, financial statements, et cetera. Any questions on those? Hearing none, next is to review the 19 board planning calendar. Dr. Chapman.
Yes, sir. You'll see this on page 267 of your packet. this next month. It's timely based on what we were just talking about a few moments ago, the annual compensation study. We also have the EMSISD Athletic Department Annual Report, JJAP MOU. Staffing proposal 3 is scheduled there. If it's possible, we'll have one on that one. Right now, that's kind of in pencil, depending on where we're at in a month from now on growth. And also student drug testing, student behavior survey report, a World Language Academy report, and the canine detection report. Also would mention that there's an act on TASB advocacy agenda. I've not had any recommendations for an advocacy agenda proposal, and so most likely that item would be pulled. We also have Dr. Jones will be providing a federal programs public meeting, and also we'll have additional bids and proposals. Oh, I'm sorry, one other thing. Unless there's a change to the staffing proposal, it is scheduled to go into consent unless the board would like that to be an action.
You can leave it consent.
Okay.
Somebody did not agree with that, but you called me or Dr. Chapel. That brings us to the consent agenda for approval.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Liz. Was it Liz?
Marilyn.
Marilyn, sorry. Second by Marilyn. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0. I got that vote, Marilyn. Only announcements I have is I do remember Dr. Chapel, a former superintendent, saying the hardest thing to do is to start school and to stop school. So our thoughts will be with y'all in these last weeks of school. I know it's a challenge to get it started and stopped. There were several things that were in a green folder or on a packet there for you about some upcoming dinners and upcoming events that Becky needs to RSVP for. So if you get an opportunity, please look through that and make sure you give those to her before you leave. And you also had your graduation information and tickets and parking passes in there. And William, if you have a question about that, be sure to ask us through that. Anything else, Dr. Chapel?
Yes, sir. I just want to, this month is always a lot of fun to have all the recognitions and see the students here. It reminds us what all this is about. I'm really glad it's in this month because this month and next month, we start making some really hard decisions. We're reviewing things and leading the district, and this really keeps us grounded of why we do this work. And it was really wonderful to see all of them here tonight. We also have some activities coming up. I'm just going to encourage you on May 21st. Which is tomorrow. The District Reading Festival is at all 3 high schools from 5 to 6:30. It's a lot of fun. If you can drop by just one of the schools just for a few minutes. Although it is by feeder pattern, they're not limited by feeder pattern because some people have ball games at specific schools, middle school soccer, for example, so they can go to any 3 of them. And it's if you got young kids and grandkids, you can really have a score on books. So they walk out with a whole pile of books, and as one parent, Linda said, that they said they got their reading library for the year there, and really what it's about is to see kids excited about reading. We also have Bad Weather Makeup Day on the 24th, Memorial Day weekend. We also have the Watson graduation. It's coming up very quickly, and as Mr. Newcomb said, we have all those events coming as well. So if you have any question on any item on the packet, please let me know. If you have any information for the TASB Summer Leadership Institute that Becky needs, make sure you let her know if you're attending, if you haven't already. And so last thing I want to say is I want to congratulate the 2 returning board members and our new board member. It is wonderful, and if anybody was in here as people were taking pictures, I was watching y'all get your picture taken. I just thought, what a great team. And y'all are a great team. Y'all care about kids. You're focused on kids, and so thank you for all y'all do.
Thank you, Dr. Chapel. Seeing there's no further business to come before this board, the chair will entertain a motion, Donna, to adjourn. You're now the senior board member, Donna. Okay.
Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Tim. We're adjourned.